National Chess Master All Rats at chess.com. I'm giving a simul, and most of the people on my sign-up list failed to show up, so I took the 3 that were there, and just have to catch me next time. I will be back. Okay, I went ahead and allowed someone to have white here by mistake, but that's okay. I'll play black once in a while, and this is transposed into a Chigorin defense to the Queen's Gambit declined. I'm familiar with this line, played it as black for years. Okay, so, and here's Carly. Okay, King's Indian attack, and not much is happening yet in any of the games. It's just a matter of working our way through the openings. Okay, so now I like to play this line. D takes, C6, and now knight F3, or knight C3 rather, and if E6 I play E4, bishop B4, F3, queen H4, check, G3, queen F6. Just had a game with this, couple games with this recently from the white side. Okay, so now I develop this piece. Now black has 2 pieces developed, white has none. Nimzovich is of a very versatile opening for black. You have to understand the positional concepts. F5 is the key square in the advance line. Black will always try to keep a piece there. In this case, a bishop. Later, it will be replaced by a knight, if it goes according to the way these things usually go. Okay, so let's see. What's going to happen in these games? Is it my move here? Let's see. No. See, it says yellow. You can't see it on the screen, but it shows yellow up there like it's my move, but it isn't. I know when I first gave a simul, I tried over 20 boards and lost most of them on time. I couldn't get to the games where it was my move. I couldn't figure it out. And my high 1900 rating plummeted down to 1300. That was kind of funny. I don't care about a rating. Okay, let's see. Checking alerts. Who's... Nothing new and pressing here. I hear a click. Must be my move. Okay. Let's see, friends. So not too much happens in the beginning of these simuls. It's just a matter of playing the opening out and going from there, and I have to alternate between the 3 games and try to select candidate moves. But the most useful thing about these simuls is that I'm trying to make an instructional video to help the people that are playing the games. Number one, I can share what I'm thinking about while I'm making my moves. You know, what's my plan? You ever wonder what goes through your opponent's head? Well, you're going to find out. If you played me, you'll see what I was thinking, and I won't always be correct, especially when I'm giving a simul. You get carrying away with too many positions in games, and it's hard to remember sometimes what you're doing in each one and then to analyze it correctly. Okay, so here white has played A3. Now, black is not really planning to play knight B4, although some lines black does this. White always has a defense to the C2 square. What white needs to do is develop his pieces, and that doesn't develop his pieces. So now I'm going to strike in the center with F6. Excuse me. Oh, I'm allergic to this headset. No, actually I'm not. I'm fine. Let's get back to this. Okay, so I strike in the center. This is a thematic system I use against the E5 push to try to crack open the center, all the while maintaining control of the F5 square. White would have been better served with pawn to C3, okay, instead of pawn to A3. Okay, so now we're still in book, E4. Okay, so G6. So now I castle. And it's always good to castle early in your games. Your king gets to safety. It won't get caught in the center. Okay, so now he plays F4, which is fine, and I just take it, and I'm getting ready to push e6 next move, and suddenly I'm getting all my pieces out. You see, here we go. Okay, so now this bishop, sometimes it is a little difficulty getting it developed. Often what will happen is white will play bishop d3, and I'll bring this knight to e7. I could even put it on h6, and if bishop takes h6, I have queen h4 check, picking up the bishop and avoiding double pawns, although sometimes I've allowed the double pawns because it gives blacks an extra file to play with on the king side. But on bishop d3, I don't necessarily take. Sometimes I do. It depends on the position. The reason I don't take is because that develops the white queen. I would rather put my knight here and let him take on f5, and then I improve the position of my knight. So there's some intricate maneuvering going on. I've had this position many times, usually with a white pawn on c3 rather than on a3. So I just kind of follow the same strategies and go from there. Okay, here's bishop b4 is expected. Now the pawn on e4 is not defended because the defensive power of a pinned piece is purely imaginary. Okay, so now I just play f3, and as I say, the book line is to play queen h4, g3, queen f6, keeping an eye on the f3 square. Okay, so let's check the other games and see what's happening here. Okay, it's still his move. Time-wise, I've gained time on the clock. In effect, by playing 45-45 time control, if I divide them up, I'm playing 15-15 against these people. So they get a 3-to-1 time advantage on me. Here I've used a little bit of time because I was starting the games up. Okay, it's my move. I need to make a move there. And later when we get out of the book moves and we start deciding on, I start planning my strategy, I'll slow down a little bit and take more time. Okay, so this is all theory. I've been mentioning her for a while. Now the queen will go to f6. And I recently had a game where I played bishop g2 just a couple weeks ago. There's a video of it on and in my blogs. I had a game with white against the Jagoran and a game with black with it on a weekend tournament. Let's see, is it my move here? No, not my move. Is it my move there? Nope, not my move there either. Okay, so time-wise, I've gained time here. I've got more than 45 minutes. I lost a few minutes here because she was the first one I challenged, and I had to stop and get some other games going, but time is not an issue. Good, she's taking her time. You know, these people need to take their time. Now I develop a knight. Okay, and now it's my move here. Okay, so knight f3. Okay, so now I go through the basic thematics of this. I continue my development. Okay, as I said, f5 is the key square, and I'm going to maintain a piece there. Now the knight h6 tricks no longer work. I'd have to accept double pawns if he takes because I no longer have queen h4 check. But by putting the knight on e7, I'm getting ready to bring it into f5. And like I say, okay, if he plays bishop d3, I probably won't take the bishop, but I might, and I'll discuss the two possibilities if he plays bishop d3. Actually, I'll discuss them from here. I'm just going to go ahead and play the move. Bishop d3, my candidate moves are bishop takes or queen d7. Queen d7 prepares the possibility of kingside or queenside castling, although often I want to castle kingside in this position, and often what I have to do is kind of go through a maneuver where this knight on e7 will end up on f5, the bishop will go to e7, and then it drops back to d8 of all places. The purpose to clear e7 for the knight on c6 to come over the king side. And usually I don't drop that bishop back to d8 until this rook on a8 has come over maybe to e8, or possibly if I castle, double up the rooks on the file. It's kind of a lengthy maneuvering process. And okay, here, okay, he didn't play bishop d3, so I can do one of two things here. I don't necessarily want to kick a6 by two things, queen d7 and a6. The reason I don't want to kick a6 right away, it's not that he would take the knight. I don't care if he takes the knight, but I don't want to spend a tempo. He might take the knight on his own. So I'm thinking queen d7 is the more accurate move here. And And if he plays something like knight h4, I'm just going to, you know, I'll let him have my bishop. I'll take back with the knight, and I've occupied that f5 square, like I say. So I always preach development, so queen d7 is the move here. Okay, now she's played d4. Very interesting move. Okay, generally it's not good to move that pawn a second time in the opening. The way I play this position, I play c3, then I break with e4. If I play c3 now, and she takes and I take, the pawn is not protected, but the knight could go to d5 theoretically, and it's attacked twice. Let's see. One potential drawback with the move c5 is it gives me the c4 square, and I can play knight c4 here. That keeps control over e5. Then I'm getting ready for e4 myself, and if there's a break, en passant break, I can take back with the knight. So I'm thinking knight c4 is the normal move, is the best move here, and I'm not afraid of b5. That just weakens the black queen side pawn structure, and it opens up the h1 a8 diagonal. Her rook isn't going to be in a little trouble. Okay, so knight c4, this helps my development. Now I'm going to probably forego the whole plan of going c4. I'm going to break with e4 at the right time, and we'll see when we get there. Okay, so he hasn't played queen f6 yet. Okay, he hasn't moved. Let's see, 47 minutes, 47 minutes, and 41 minutes. Okay, so how are they doing on time? This guy is taking his time. That's good. Yeah, they seem to be taking their time. Okay, so now the whole question is, how do I continue with my plan here? Is to occupy f5, and as I say, the number one thing that black wants to do here is get developed. Notice the entire white queen side is not developed yet. I've got 3 minor pieces of my queen out, and castling queenside does invite white to run the pawns and try and attack, but you know what? I've never had anyone run a successful attack against my king on it while he's castled queenside. It just doesn't happen. Okay, so at the same time, I want to maintain this f5 square. At some point, I might end up parting with this bishop for a knight. I'm willing, if, like for instance, if I castly place knight h4, I might, well, I can leave the knight there. I mean, leave the bishop on f5. How do I improve my position? I can't really play knight g6 because when takes on f5, my pawn takes, I want a piece on f5, and I've given up a protected passer. I could play knight g6 in this position. This is an interesting move. Knight g6. This stops knight h4, and it helps maintain this bishop on f5. And if bishop d3, I have the option of taking it and playing bishop e7, getting ready to castle kingside, or I have the option of go ahead and dropping this knight back to e7, and I'm crawling all over this f5 square again. So a6 just spends a tempo. I can still castle queenside. I think knight g6 is the most versatile move here, so that's what I'm going to play. Okay, now there's an interesting move, bishop e6, threatening to double pawns. Now this does unmask some potential danger on this long diagonal, but I don't need to rush things. The question is, what do I do if she doubles my pawns? Well, I don't worry about it. Okay, so for instance, e4 takes on c4, d takes c4. My pawn on e4 hangs, but so what? Okay. I've had similar games like this before when my knight's gone to c4. I end up wanting to anchor it in there So I can't really play e4. I don't care if she doubles my pawns, but if that's what she wants to do, I'm going to want to take back with my b pawn and have a half-open b file. So I'm thinking of playing b3 here. Other candidate moves are to develop this bishop like the g5, but it really doesn't have a lot of hope yet, so it may come in handy on a3 at some point. So I'm going to play b3 here and go from there. Okay, queen f6. Now in the recent game I played bishop g2. But actually, let's see. I'm trying to remember these lines. I think. Let's see. Okay, before I go any further, let me explain the black strategy here. That way there's some value to this. In effect, white has two targets, two weak pawns, d4 and f3. Okay, the black queen is attacking both, but the white queen is also defending both. But as a result of this position, notice the white queen can't really move. White's going to drop some material. For instance, queen b3 fails to queen takes f3. And white doesn't have time to take the bishop on b4 because the rook on h1 is hanging. Okay, that's the main idea. That black is menacing these pawns. Now black wants to do more to this. He can't really pile up on f3, but he can pile up on the d4 square. And how does black do that? Well, he castles queenside, then he goes through the interesting maneuver of bishop b4 back to a5 to b6, and he does that on his own. And as black, I've had people with white play a3 in this position, just driving the bishop where it wants to go. So white basically weakens his queenside and helps black along his way. So I know in some lines what white will do is, okay, white will be playing bishop e3 at some point in this encounter. The purpose of bishop e3 is it helps secure d4, but then, like I say, black tries to get his bishop back to b6 and then push pawn to e5, pinning it. And I know some of the maneuvers involve white playing queen e2 after bishop e3. That breaks the power of the pin on the a7 g1 diagonal, because the queen will be guarding the bishop on e3. So I think bishop e3 is the most accurate move here. And then if he castles, I have a choice between bishop g2 and queen e2, and I think I might try the queen e2 line this time. Okay, so let's see what's happening here. Well, she didn't take. Okay, so she's basically saying she wants to neutralize my bishop. Okay, but she's done this at a little cost of development. Now I have to be careful about, now that I've opened up the a1 h8 diagonal, if I try the tactical e4, and after an en passant capture, suddenly my rook could be exposed. So since she's not willing to take my knight on c4 and double my pawns, and doing so would cost a tempo, I'm just going to slow play this with the positional a4 to secure my knight on c4 for as long as I can. Okay, my move here, he castled. So now I have time to play queen e2, which relinquishes the pressure on d4 and maintains protection of f3, and my queen covers my bishop on e3. Okay, so back to this game. Okay, so I can get castled here pretty quick, it seems. Either side, I'm going to play bishop e7 and be ready to castle either side. Okay, and probably castle kingside. I tend to like to do that more. Okay, so c4 anchors the pawn in on c5, or anchors the pawn in on d4. c5 is not protected, but I'm not attacking it. I could develop bishop a3 and be attacking it. Do I want to do that? That is the question. Well, it gains a tempo. It makes her stop and defend it, and it clears my rook off the back rank. And then it's just a question, if I want to try to force e4 in, I've got to make sure I don't run into any tactical complications. Well, this bishop can often redeploy on the king side later. I'm going to try bishop a3. Okay, queen e2, he hasn't moved. Okay, okay, he hasn't moved. Time-wise, 44 minutes to 38, 43 to 38, and here I'm down on time. Carly, you're playing just a little bit too quick. Okay, you barely used your increment. We're at move 10. Okay, you got about an average of 2 minutes a move. Use them. Okay. Anyway, not much is happening. Too bad I didn't get any more games started, but there were some people that were interested in playing. They were posting in the thread they'd be there, and I didn't see them in chat. Must not be on my friends list. Okay, so let's see. Did I hear a click? Yep. Okay, b6. Okay, so now d2 is an interesting pivot square for my knights, but I don't really want to move my knights. Okay, if I put the knight on c4, I don't see any reason to put it back on d2. And at the moment, I don't see any reason to put the knight on f3 on d2. I don't really want to trade off the light squared bishop. I'll keep mine for now. Although, theoretically, it's a decent trade because a lot of her pawns are on black. I'm going to play queen d2 just to grab some space. It keeps black from playing bishop h6 and gets ready me closer to playing e4. So I'm going to play queen d2 here and see what happens. Okay. At some point, we're going to leave theory here. I think this is still book. Well, actually, I'm sure it's still book. I was looking at it recently, but I'll just have to wing it here shortly because we're going to exit theory, and I'll just understand the concepts. You don't need to understand variations, you know, the countless variations that are possible. Just have to understand how to play the position. And I've explained white strategy already a little bit in that game. Let me just go back to it. The white strategy has been to safeguard what black is striking. Black is trying to strike at d4. Black is trying to strike at f3 and use that a7 g1 diagonal. Now in some variations white will be pushing e5. Even though it gives up d5, it clears the e4 square for a white knight, which can be quite useful. And like I say, it just depends on how black plays this. With the bishop g2 line, I ran into bishop c5 in that other game, which lets black get on that diagonal a tempo quicker. Now bishop c5 is impossible because the pawn on d4 isn't pinned to my queen. Okay, there's yellow up here. Is it my move? Yes, it is. Okay, so I want to play e4 at some point. Okay, that's what I want to do. But I don't want any tactical surprises on this long diagonal. So I'll put the rook on a1 on e1. The idea being I'm getting ready for e4. Okay, and black could play knight g4 with the idea of bishop h6 to drive my queen out, but I have the d1 square to come back to, and my queen is quite safe there. And that's one reason for putting this rook on e1. Okay, so that it doesn't hem the rook in if I have to drop it back. The rook stay connected. Okay, it's still his move there. Still his move here. Okay. No, it's my move. Okay. Now, like I say, normally I like to castle king side here, and I'm going to stick with that. And I'll go for the basic maneuvering here. Rook f7 at the right time, perhaps followed by rook f8. Now I can't, and bishop d8. And as long as this bishop is pinning me, I can't bring my knight back to e7. So I may need to kick it out of there here in a little bit. I could have kicked it now, but then he just might trade. And like I say, I like my knights. I like to get one to f5. I'm willing to trade light squared bishops. Although it's a little harder for him now, unless he wants some double pawns. If a6, if it was my move in a6, bishop d3, he may not go to d3 because he might not want double pawns, so it goes in a half open file. He might put it back on d2. But anyway, that's c'est la vie. This is where we're at. One drawback with rook f7 in this type of position is that white may play knight g5 and chase it back or force black to give up the bishop pair, but that's okay. Then you're going to end up getting this knight over to e7 a little quicker as long as this pin is broken. Okay, what's happening here? Okay, she played there. So now I go about my plan and push my pawn to e4. Okay, all this maneuvering just to get e4 in. Okay, e4. I haven't really analyzed it. If takes en passant, I take back with the knight, and I'm on her bishop. I've cleared the d4 square, but I'm not so worried about black occupying that. Just let it sit there, let the knight sit there, and I may not want to take and give myself a backward pawn on the open file, but e4 is the move here, and we'll go from there. Okay. No, he hasn't moved here yet. Okay. Oh, yes, he did. He played c3. Or no, wait a minute. Yeah, he played c3. Okay, so here's the question. What to do here to proceed. Like I'm going to kick. This is now a time I can kick his bishop. And I think he'll preserve it with either bishop a4 or bishop e2. But either way, shape or form, I break the pin. So this is the time to do it now. Okay, she didn't take en passant. She brought the bishop back. Okay, so now the queen side is pretty much locked. There's not much going on over there. Black can eventually kick the knight out of c4 with a6 and b5. But it's now time for me to energetically pursue some action on the king side, and the way to do that is to play knight h4 with the idea of f4 and start running the pawns and see what happens. Okay, so knight h4 is the move here, and there it is. That sounds like my move over here. Okay, bishop e2. Now this plays exactly how I want. Okay, I can continue with my maneuvering that I explained. Rook over to e8, bishop back to d7 or d8, knight d7, and I keep an occupation of the f5 square. The only question is, do I want to play rook f7? Rook f7, knight g5, bishop takes g5, bishop takes g5. Then I'm able to double my rooks at the cost of the bishop pair. Although I have my good bishop for the ending. It's a matter of me trading off the black bishop, or do I want to just preserve things here? There was one interesting point here. White's having trouble getting his queen side developed completely. For instance, if I play rook ae8, where does the white queen go? The only developing squares on the queen side are b3 and a4, and even though b3 attacks at pawn, I don't really need to worry about that pawn. In other words, or any counterplay by white over on the queen side. Black is steering for the king side here, and it all stems from occupation of b5. Another possible move is to play bishop g4. The purpose of bishop g4 is that it induces white to make a weakness with h3 and then give up the bishop on f3. But in order to do that, I need my development complete on the king side. So I'm going to play. I'll hold off on doubling the rooks and go through with my plan, rook ae8, with the idea bishop d8 and knight e7 at the appropriate time. Okay. Oh, there's an interesting move. Does this just hang a piece? Oh my goodness, I'm sorry. I don't see what counterplay you have if I take your piece, and I'm more or less obligated to take it. Nothing is guarding your bishop on b5. Wow. It was an interesting game. You needed to play a developing move here. Knight e7. or go through with the plan of bishop a5 and bishop b6. I don't see what compensation you have. Queen takes. You know, oh, you want to take on f3? Well, okay, fine. You take on f3, or you take on c3 first. Interesting. Okay, bishop takes c3 check, bishop takes c3. See, I don't want to see everything right up front. Let me check and see if it's my move everywhere else, because I want to spend some time on this. Okay, we'll probably be playing f4 here. We'll let white and black trade the bishops off if she wants. Okay, f4. Now let's come back to this game. Bishop b5. Wow. Well, I got to deal with the queen. So queen takes b5, queen takes f3. Now my rook's loose and my bishop's loose. But his bishop is loose too. So queen takes f3. If I take on b4, I'm a piece up, and he can take the rook. And I have two pieces for the rook. If he stops and checks first and then plays queen takes f3, he's attacking my bishop and he's attacking my rook. I think I can just decline this sacrifice. It's interesting. See, I'm glad I think these things over before jumping, you know. I know queen e2 is a move. If bishop b5 is a move, I'm not familiar with it, but I can work these things out of the board. You know, it's one thing, you don't need to know all the book lines when you play a book variation. Eventually, you or your opponent play a move that you don't know, and you're on your own, and that's going to happen no matter what variation you play of any opening. So, strategically, I can move my queen. Okay, I can move my queen and put a threat on the bishop. So where do I put my queen? F2 is a good square. It maintains coverage of the pawn on d4. It maintains coverage of the pawn on f3. So let's see. Before we go any further, let's just figure it out. Okay, queen takes, bishop takes c3 check, b takes c3, queen takes f3. Now the queen's forking my bishop and my rook. If I move my rook, queen takes e3 check, wins my rook. So, wow, it's a good move, bishop e5. I thought it was a mistake. But whether it's a mistake or not, I mean, I can play queen f3, and if he takes on f1, I can take with the king, and the king will castle by hand and get out of danger. So I'm just going to play queen f2 here and congratulate him on finding a good move. Okay, now here, as expected, comes the bishop h3 maneuver, which I don't mind. So this is the time to play f5. Shuts the bishop off, and if black takes on f5, I get a nice square for my knight. Okay, so here it is, f5. Okay, what's happening over here? He played there anyway. Okay, is he threatening anything I should worry about? The answer is no, he's not. Knight takes e6 doesn't work. If I can actually stop and kick him right back here, and I'm going to do that, h6. Because I've got the weaknesses covered. It makes g6 a little weak, but there's nothing he can do. And g6 is well covered, so I'm just going to kick him out. Okay, she took. Now, which way to take? Logically, take with the king to maintain Well, let's see. See, I'm just kind of lost in thought here, blanked out. Okay. If I take with the queen, black gets on this diagonal if she wants it. I'm not saying it's not a bad idea, but it might be a good idea at some point. It's just grabbing some space. If I take with the king, the king might get in the way, but it shouldn't if I have an eventual pawn advance. So king takes is probably the best. And as I said, this bishop earlier can come back to c1 at the right time, and that frees the queen. So I'll just take with the king here and see what she does. Okay, so now as I say, I take with the king, and a lot of the black pressure is gone. Let's see, somebody's... What's that little beep? What's that beep? Chat request. Oh, I'll accept. I'm playing as this guy that wants free lessons. You can't have free lessons. I'm playing as Simul. Okay. He didn't even join my group. Join my group and sign up. You might play next one. Otherwise, I charge $20 an hour to play. Okay, it's that simple. I do these free in my group. Okay. Alright, let's see. So, white's okay here. Okay, let's see. Knight g4. Okay. I cover e3, so that's not a major concern. Let's make sure that knight doesn't give me any fits. Let's kick it out. Keep a knight out of g4. I want that square for my own. I think, what's the silent in? Okay, there you go. Alright. Now I gotta tell this guy I can't talk. Can't talk now. Playing. Bye. Okay. You're done. I don't care if you talk to me again. I don't have time for you. I gotta make these videos. Okay, so there, put the knight back on f3. Now I go through with my maneuvering plan. The bishop comes back to d8, so that let's see. So the knight on c6 can get to e7. Interesting maneuvering, isn't it? It's pretty easy actually once you get the hang of it. Other candidate moves I can play bishop g4 and drop my knight in on f4. But I like I say, I want to be able to maintain instant reoccupation of the f5 square. So I'm going to go through with my plan here. Okay, what's she done? She's gone back. Okay, now can I do anything with e5? Seems a little early. Just a wee bit early. I'd like to get g4 and g5 in, but then it goes back to h5. Let's see. I'll just play g4 and just slow play this one. It seems to be thematic. Yeah, white does have to be careful advancing the pawns. His own king can get in trouble. Okay, so not much is happening there and there. I wonder if that guy even joined my group. I don't think he did. Oh well. No free lessons, no free games. These are free. But you got to be in my group. You hop in. And, you know, two of the people that played me weren't even on the list. I think three of them weren't One wasn't on the list, but I looked on the list and nobody was here, even though several said they would be there. You weren't in live chess at the time we started, and if you were, I guess it's because you're not on my friends list, and I didn't see you come to chat. You know, I posted in time. I said, going to chat, we'll talk there. And, you know, you got to be here at the right time, okay? That's just the way it is. So there's no need for me to push E5 necessarily here. That just gives up a square D5. Okay, as I mentioned, one of the things about shoving my pawns is it opens up potential vulnerability of my king. Okay, so this bishop on A3 is doing me no good. Just a natural move is to play it back here and await developments. Okay, here's a friend request. I accept all friends' requests. Okay, there you go. So now my bishop is redeployed, and I'll probably move my queen and threaten to bring it to F4 here in a minute. That's my objective here. Is it my move here? Yes. Okay. So okay. So now black is trying to attack white. This is what this game I just won with this line. What happened there? Black tried to attack white too quickly. See, I can play King G2, and if H4, I get another move. Okay, before he takes, and with rooks opposing the file, I mean I can do some damage here. So H4. Let's see, King G2, H4, E5. I can attack the queen, and where's the queen going to go? If it backs up, it's not helping his attack, and that, like I said earlier, that gives me this E4 square to occupy my knight with. I could also try to break the position open with D5. I'm just going to play the king here, castle by hand, and play it safe. And I don't think he has anything. Black doesn't have an attack. He's not developed yet. It's just fact. Okay, so now B4. That doesn't really do white much good. As I say, I just start doing my maneuvering, and here it is. Knight E7. See how easy this is? F5. That's my square. You play the Nimzovich, advanced variation, F5 is yours. Okay, A4 doesn't help him. So now, like I say, I go. I just go about my business and continue with what I was doing on the king side. So I play bishop G4 here, and this gives me. I may be parting with that bishop for a knight. I don't care about that so much now, but it gives me the F5 square for a knight to hop in. Notice also I have the F4 square. So I'm quite familiar with the strategies here. Okay, so now black is threatening to double some pawns. Okay, fine. I take, she takes. I put my queen on F2, and I'm threatening to play bishop F4 and chase her queen out of there, and then continue my assault. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. Real simple. Okay, just slow maneuvering. Now, do I want the queen on F2? Yes, because it helps secure the knight on H4. Okay, so I'm coming up with bishop F4 next. Okay, so let's see. Not worried about that game. This game, as just discussed, let's look at the time. 39 minutes to 30. I got plenty of time to talk here. 38 to 25. And here I'm behind 31 to 43. Chicky-chicky, gotta slow down. Okay. Oh, wow. H4. H5, making weaknesses on the king side. Okay. How do I handle this? I think she got her queen trapped. My goodness, I didn't even see that's trapping the queen. Bishop F4 was the threat, and I didn't even notice it was going to trap her queen. Ouch. Where's her queen go? It doesn't. Okay. H3. Well, like I say, I don't mind parting with this at all. My next step is to bring a knight into F5. I can even put one on f4 now if I wanted. Let's see. That's coming. Knight f5. And here the consummate black strategy is achieved. F5 is mine. It's my square. I might even consider anchoring it in with pawn to h5 in a bit. Okay, he added me as a friend. I accept all friends. Now I can play knight f4 and regain the bishop pair. And it's not a bad move because, let's see, knight f4, g4. I take with check. Black's getting control over, or white's getting control over f5. So let's see. Knight f4. Oh no, the problem with g4 is I can take on h3 with check. Okay, so g4 is out of the question. So now I've got both knights going on those squares, f5 and f4. Okay, so she took my pawn to clear a square for the knight on my queen, so it saves her queen, but it costs her a piece. And now the queen can go back to f6, and now the usefulness of putting there's more trouble here. Usefulness of putting my queen on f2 comes into play because it's guarding the knight on h4. But the problem with queen f6 is I played g5, and I think the queen's trapped again. Now he has c6. Okay, so before I rush g5, let's see, how do I want to do this? It forces queen c6. Let's see, e5 is possible, and that allows this with check. I can take on g6 and make weaknesses on e6 and g6. Let's see. You know, I'm a piece ahead. I'm just trying to see what else I can get. You know, when you achieve a material advantage, you want to try to gain more if you can, because superior force will often lead to that. Okay, so let's just give you a chance to do that. And if you win more material, then the game can end for you quicker, which is a nice thing. So let's see. She's not threatening to take here. Is threatening to play g5. Okay, that would fork my pieces and get it back, so I don't have time to try to improve my position, like move the king over to the side to get on the g file. But I think I need to take g5 away, so let's just do that. Okay, let's see what's happening over here. h4. He did play that. Okay, h4. Like I said, I don't think he has much. So let's see, d5 might run into bishop takes and problems here. So it's time I start attacking the black king. How can I do that? Well, actually, though, d5, I'm getting all these open lines against the king. I don't mind h3 check so much, even if it shuts my rook in. See, I may not want to shift my rook over here and then have to shift it back. Let me just peek here for a second. Okay, queen c6 is expected. Bishop d3. Okay, so I can get the bishop pair back and maintain my knight. Okay, it's my move in every game. I've got to make a useful instruction thing here. I don't mind if black takes on f5. That just gives my knight a wonderful outpost. My e5 pawn or e4 pawn is pinned. I need to put my king where he's safe, and so that lines can open up. I think that's the first objective here. Then figure out how to coordinate my queen and rook. So I'm just going to park the king on h2 and wait developments. Okay, so let's see. We're back to this and this. Let's see. Now I can take back the bishop pair. Bishop takes, queen takes, and I can play h5. securing this knight's presence on f5. What else do I have? Don't really have any kind of sacrifice against the king with knight takes h3 and so forth. Now I'll just take the bishop and reacquire the bishop pair, and then I've got the better bishop. Okay, so that's my move over here again. Okay, that, like I said, that just allows my knight a nice square, and then h5 is weak. Okay, so let's see what's happening here. He took. Now, do I play h5 and secure my knight there? Well, it doesn't really secure the knight there because you can play g4, takes. My knight goes back to g6, and I've got pressure on, or h6, I've got pressure on g5. Yeah, it's the thematic move, h5. Okay, that's my move over here. e5. Well, where do I want the bishop? Put it on c1 now. Yeah, I'm gonna put it on c1 just in case the d2. I don't see how she's gonna attack c1. d2 gives me some options if she opens up the a file to oppose it, so I'm gonna go to d2. Kind of a happy choice there. Let's see, h5, his move. Back to my move here again. One way to play this is just play h3. The purpose of h3 is that if pawn takes, my queen takes, and my queen is pointed at c7, and he can't play bishop d6 because I have d5. Let's see. I like the idea of putting this rook on c1, and if he takes, again, I can take with the queen, and if bishop d6, I can push, fork him. Let's see, rook here, take with the queen. Bishop d6 fails to e5. He's forked. He doesn't have a tactic. And if he takes, I take with the queen. And I'm getting some attacking chances against c7. So this is the move. Okay, now it's my turn over here. Now rook to c7. Okay, so now it's a matter of coordinating things the right way. This knight's perfectly posted. There's no need to move it yet, although I have a check for what it's worth. And if takes, the g file is opening up. I can also take the bishop and force a queen trade. I mean, this queen, knight takes, king takes, queen f6 check, queen takes, pawn takes check. Now our king is kind of stuck. It goes over to the side. Yeah, this seems to make sense. It actually works. Knight takes, queen takes, queen check, queen takes, pawn takes, check. Now king goes back. Now I put my rook on f5, and there's a serious mate threat here. Okay, there it is. Okay, let's see. His move here. Again, I don't mind h3 check. My king will just go hide in the corner. Okay, so let's see what's happening here. h5. So white's not really doing anything over on the queen side at all. I hear it's my move. There's a click. Okay, so now queen check. Okay, now if queen takes, pawn takes, and the black king's in trouble. It's going to be in trouble anyway here in a bit. I'm going to just open things up. Okay, so let's see. Time-wise, I have 37 minutes here. 33 minutes there. She took. Okay, I think the black king is close to getting checkmated here. She has to go to g8, h7, or h8. And then the threat is rook f5. followed by rook g1 check and rook takes h5 mate. And king g8, rook f5, rook f8. I take with the rook on h5, and the king can't run because rook h8 is mate. Okay, so this, let's see, what am I missing? Okay, this threatens mate in 2. Okay, how are you going to guard that? The king can't go forward. Rook h8. I play rook takes check. And if king g8, rook g1 check, king f8, rook h8 mate. Okay, there's g4. Okay, now, I mentioned this. It tends to weaken the white king position a little bit. And I'm happy with this. Because when I play knight h6, I'm attacking g4. And that's a square that black needs to deal with. Okay, I don't have knight h4 at my disposal. That's the thematic square to go to. But this kind of puts the question to the pawn. And queen g6 is out of the question because a rook takes f3. Okay, so let's see. Now this is mate in 1, unfortunately. No, it's not. Okay, let's see. So rook takes... Oh, wait. No, rook takes king g6 and rook h6 is mate. Amazing. Okay. Didn't think trading I could trade down to a mate, but son of a gun, that's what I'm able to do. And then boom, there we have it. Thanks for the game. Wow. I'm making a video of this. Okay, so now we have one game less and two games to go. Okay, so he's still thinking. He's down to 18 minutes. He's good. He's taking his time. Carly, you didn't take your time. You never did accept my chat, you brat. I'll try it again when she's playing a game. Anyway, where was I? Let's get this up here. Okay, she left the chat, so there's no need for this game. It's hard to see how black could have stopped that mate. I'm not sure, without maybe finding a way to sacrifice for this f6 pawn or something. But that just puts her down a rook and a bishop, you know. It's okay. Going to close that window and focus on the other two games. Let's see. 17 minutes here and 28 minutes there. Okay. Black's got the ideal position here in a Nimzovich defense. Everything's headed over towards the king side. This is the reason I like to castle king side, because it gets a rook to f8 rather than have to stop and move when you're on that open f file. As mentioned, there are some ways to double on that f file. Well, I said he couldn't do that. What am I missing? Rook takes f3. What am I missing? It's a shame. Okay, rook takes f3. It's just a free piece, you know. I thought I was getting a free piece in the other game, and I wasn't. What am I? You know, I always say I'm the first one to say I can miss stuff. What am I missing here? I don't know. We'll find out. Okay. So he developed his knight. Okay, that's smart. Okay, now what I can do is I can just lock up the king side. I can just lock it up. And then the action shifts to the queen side. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to lock it up. Now this makes a little weakness on f4, but I'm not so worried about that. Snuff out your opponent's counterplay, I say. And if knight c6, I play d5. That's a good move. D5, bishop takes c3, Rook takes c3. Pawn takes, he takes with the rook. And I got some decent attacking chances over there. And on knight c6 I can also play knight e5 with the idea of knight e4. And g4 just shuts down the black attack, which really wasn't there. Okay, now he attacks the rook, so no need to retreat it. I will just let's see, do I want to double rooks or bring my queen over? Offer him a queen trade. If I offer him a queen trade, he can't accept because I'll take back with the rook and he's down a piece. And this drives his queen back and lets me triple on the open file. Let's see, queen f7, queen c2, rook f8, and I don't even have to triple on the file. I can play knight takes g4. My goodness. Okay, this works. It's better than rook f8. Okay. Okay, let's see. So g4, he has 17 minutes. I'm down to 2 games. And I've got plenty of time for once. Wow. I mean, a lot of these simuls are brutal. I'm finding myself falling behind on time. Part of it's because my opponents are moving quick. Most of these people are doing better. Now, Carly was going kind of slow a little bit for a while, but a lot of moves took place there in the end. Anyway, queen f7. Okay, black won. He resigned that. Thank you so much for the game. Down a piece is kind of hard to do anything, so I'm down to 1 game, and this match is now 1 hour, 1 minute, and 44 seconds as this video started. Okay, so it leaves 1 game here. Did he see any comment? Let's see. Thank you very much. Thanks to. I'll tell him something. Thanks to. Thanks to. I'm making a live video. It will be posted later. Okay, so this game is now over. There's 1 game left, and I have a 32 to 15 time advantage. And here what I've done is I basically stopped the black attack cold, and I'm in no hurry to get mine going. It'll come in its own time. Oops, I'm losing connection. It's back. Okay. Yeah, if I lose connection, I lose connection. Okay, so let's see. How do I want to continue this? The black attack is stopped cold, so there's no need to worry about that. Now with the king going to this square, taking on a7 could be with check, so is this an opportune time to play d5? Okay, d5 threatens bishop takes check. It activates this bishop and it invites him to make weaknesses in his king side. If he takes, like I said, I can stop and take this with check. And it looks pretty good. d5. Let's see, did he see anything here? Okay, I'm going to close this window down. Well, actually not yet. Let's see what he left the chat. I'm going to close that one. Okay, so back to this game. Here it is. Okay, so d5 looks like the right move here. Got to activate this bishop. Black has not gone through with the plan of bishop a5 and b6. Plus, d5 also, for what it's worth, threatens a bishop d4 at some point. I mean, it's a tempo move to bring the bishop back and attack the queen. As I say, let's bring in the attackers. Suddenly, there are now four white pieces menacing the black king. Black started his attack first. I went ahead and played d5. The queen, the bishop, the knight, and the rook on c1 are all menacing the black king. And he spent a couple moves over here trying to attack my king and just run out of steam with it. So by playing d5, I've opened up the tactical possibilities against his king position, and then knight b5 may very well be coming in, in a moment. If a6, I can still do some potential damage with bishop a7 check, king a8, bishop d4, which attacks the queen, and he doesn't have a defender of c7, and I can start piling up attackers with knight a4. White has a lot of potential attacking scenarios here. And we're move 17. Okay, there's a6 as expected. So checking him takes away protection as c7, puts his king in the corner. I like the idea. And then I can go attack his queen, chase it out, and then go menace c7, perhaps. Let's see. So a6. Another thing about a6 is the right time I can eventually start a pawn assault again, and this pawn is now closer, so I eventually force b5 in. Okay, so bishop a7, king a8, bishop d4, e5. And that's fine. That anchors my pawn in on d5. Bishop e3, and he struggles for a move. Okay, so this is the right approach. Bishop check first, followed by bishop d4, gaining a tempo on the queen and trying to displace it. If he goes back to c8, he's walking into potential problems on the c file. Like, for instance, if king c8, I can play knight a4, and the threat is knight b6 mate, because the pawn on c7 is pinned. You could play b6 trying to trap my bishop in, but that can't be good. I can just give up the bishop for the pawn, and his king is caught in the center. My goodness, I mean, you can't survive that. But what else is happening here? He has two legal moves. He's got I think a8's a no-brainer, but it has some drawbacks to it because it relinquishes some protection of the c7 pawn. And now I come back, and I'm inviting e5, which is fine. I'll just play bishop e3, and I might even consider bishop c5. No, I don't want to do that. I want to keep control of b6. Bishop e3 just says to him that thou shalt not pass, and I'll just start coordinating on some pressure on the against this king here. So, excuse me, I need a glass of water. That's what I need. But take a quick break, let the tape run, because I can't pause these things, unfortunately. I'd love to be able to pause them, but I can't. Okay, I'll be back. I am back. Okay, so he puts his queen on g4. He's trying to get f5 in. Well, too little, too late. I don't. I'm going to continue with my plan of building up pressure on his king position. So knight a4 is my move, and now I'm threatening the pawn on c7, and so he needs to deal with that. I don't so much care about the pawn on d5. I'm trying to generate some kind of an attack here against his king, and I can desperado the bishop. There's some tactical possibilities of desperadoing the bishop on g7 to bring the queen into the heart of his position. He can't really allow me to get a rook on the 7th rank, so he doesn't have time to start chopping my pawns. You know, d takes e, or e takes d, rook takes c7, e takes, d takes e4. It just gives me some wonderful attacking possibilities. I have knight b6 check, forcing his king to b8, and I can double the rooks on the file. I can do a lot of things here. Knight a4 may not have been the most precise move, but it's sometimes these are the kind of moves you can play when you have an attack going. And black, for what it's worth, is in time pressure. Essentially, he's got about, his next 10 moves are critical, and he's barely got over a minute plus his increment for each of those 10. And if he does take a minute every move, he's going to be left with, for the next 10 moves, he's still going to be left with under 10 minutes, and the game won't necessarily get easier for him. So he's going to have to be finding accurate moves. That's one drawback with the 45-45 time limit. It's not true tournament chess. You know, you need at least 2 hours for your game, even 90 minutes to begin with, plus some kind of a secondary time control is closer to true tournament chess. Like I say, this definitely puts some pressure on the black position. The fact that I'm threatening to break in, so the black attack is just going too slow. He's really only got his king over there. D takes e5, rook takes c7. Can play knight f5. No, he can't play knight f5. My pawn on e4 takes it. I'm thinking of positions where the pawn is gone, but after he takes it again, then he's threatening knight f5. But the knight, where's the knight going to go next? It's just sitting there, and my g4 pawn is pinned. Okay, so he covered things with bishop d6. Okay, so what he'd like to do is play queen f4 here. Okay, queen f4 menaces h2. So that's a good move. If I play bishop e3, he plays queen e5, and it menaces f2 or h2 again. So let's see. Of course, once he plays queen f4, I can just tuck my king back on h1, and everything is hunky-dory. So let's see. Rook c2 is the natural move. Then I answer queen f4 with king h1. And if he takes on d5, again, I'm not so worried about the pawns. Do I want to stop and take on e6 first just to make sure? Let's see. I've got time to figure this out. See, queen f4 has a threat, but I just park my king in the corner, and although I'm tied down to guarding f3. That's one reason for putting the rook on c3 rather than c2. It just helps overprotect f3. If I take on e6, it opens up the f file, but I don't think he has enough action going to justify that. So d takes e, queen f4, king h1. Now he's out of, his attack is broken. He takes, and then I can go about my plan of rook c3. And then if I get the rooks doubled on the c file, I could be giving up the exchange on c7. The idea of opening them up. See, the only thing I don't like about taking on e6 is it spends a tempo for me mobilizing the rest of my queen side forces. I don't yet have anything with knight b6 check. I don't really have anything with pushing on e5. Of course, start thinking again about ideas of b4 and b5 at the right time. That's one reason not to put the rook on c3, because bishop would tempo. Bishop takes b4, although then I would capture on c7, which is fine, and he's just got all kinds of problems. Okay, I'm thinking I have a big enough advantage in my attack, and he doesn't really have anything. I'll make sure I'm giving up c6 to his knight, but that's not so much of a problem because I might be sacrificing on c6 here. I'm gonna take it and let him sort this out. Again, you know, the position may be reasonably defendable by black, but black's in time pressure, and you know, time is part of the game, you know, and because of 45-45 time control, if you go on the defensive, it's really not enough time that you would find in a real tournament game. Like for instance, the local club I play at, we play 40 moves in 90 minutes. You need to make move 40 with an hour and a half on your clock, and if you do, and the game's still going, you get an extra half hour for sudden death. And there's a 5-second delay, so you're always going to have 5 seconds to make a move if you use all your time. But this assures if both sides take all their time, the game will be completed by closing time of the club, and if you need 2 hours, you've got them, and that's the whole point. You really need up to 2 hours to play a game, and if you can get more, it's even better. So for club chess, once a night week, one night a week, that's a perfect time control. For a longer game, you know, 40 moves in 2 hours. One weekend tournament I played in recently, 40 moves in 2 hours, and then you get an hour for sudden death, and that means you could have a 6-hour game. And it's rare you get a game lasting that long, but it's not uncommon to see one go 5 or 5.5 hours. And that is a true game of chess, my friends. Games that last 5 hours and run 50 moves or more. That is a true tournament game. And 45 is a good time control for the internet, but it's just not enough to get you in shape for when it counts the most. The real events where you're going out trying to play other players face to face that have established ratings, that are veterans of tournaments, and try to move up in class so that you can eventually, ideally, earn a title. Okay, so but taking there, he's obviously trying to calculate, can he do anything with queen f4, and he just needs to take the pawn and not so much worry about it. Let me show my next move, because if he plays queen f4, I just park my king on h1, okay, and if he pushes, if he, you know, And if he takes on e6, I'm probably going to play rook c3. That's what I'm probably going to do. Okay, so move 40 is often the critical time. A good number of games are over by move 40, and those that reach an ending, they start the ending somewhere around move 40 or the late middle game, and then the remaining half hour you have for the rest of your moves should be enough to play an ending. The endings can be tricky, but at the same time, there are a lot of simple moves that you can play that don't require a lot of thought. Whereas in a middle game like this, I mean, Black's got to consider all kinds of crazy possibilities here. What can he do to activate his game? The only h3 check just lets my king run the corner, and the king is snug as a bug in a rug on h1. He just does not have enough attacking forces. I can always guard h2 with my rook and overprotect it with rook c2. The question is, where do I put my rook? I wasn't sure. I was talking about c2 and c3. So by delaying moving the rook and making this pawn capture first, I wait to see his move, and that can help me decide exactly where I do want my rook. Okay, he played f5. Well, I don't think that's any good. I don't think that just gets him anywhere. Okay, so what I can do in this position is just go chase his bishop. Okay, what if I push e5? Okay, it threatens to win a piece. e5, where's he going to put his bishop? The answer is he has b4 to return to, and I'm not so much worried about the attack he's generating. He needs to worry about the attack I'm generating. Clearly he says, if you play e takes f4, I'm going to play knight takes f5. But is his knight really doing him that much good in there? Where's it going to go next? I kind of like e5. It just threatens to win a piece. e5, if he takes here on g4, I take on d6. He takes on f3 with double check. And my king just runs in the corner, and he's out of moves. Can his knight come in and bother me in any way, shape, or form? Let's see, f5 is clear, but from f5, where's he going to menace my king? With knight g3 check? I mean, I have time to defend against that. I'm just going to play e5. Okay, e5. It attacks his bishop, and I don't think he can do enough opening up the king side. So it's a bold try by Black. It's certainly the kind of position that one can sit down with afterwards and sort out all the possibilities of analysis, all the different variations, because in a timed game you're basically having to respond within a few minutes. And again, that's one reason why the 45 time control is a little too long. In a longer time control game, if you actually need to take 35 or 40 minutes, you can do it. I mean, I think the record somebody spent against me in a tournament game was about an hour and 20 minutes or something ridiculous. It was, it wasn't really ridiculous. It was just an awful lot of time. Okay, he gave up the piece. Okay, so now, look what he's got. He's got rook d2. I didn't see that. Okay, well, so what? He's got rook d2. I've got an attack. All right, let's see. He's going to win my queen. I'm going too quick myself. Okay. Time to sort things out. Bishop takes. Rook d2. Okay, now he's pinning my queen. Okay. Fine. I play what do I play? Okay, so my turn to blunder. Anyways, what I'm saying is sometimes you need that extra time, a luxury to spend an hour on a move if you really need that much. And in a 45 time control, you never have that hour unless you blitz your first 20 moves out and then take an hour. Then you'll gain enough time on the clock to have that hour, but you just don't have it in 45 time control. So why am I playing that using this time control in simuls? Well, I don't know why. I've just been doing it. I've kind of switched around. I've tried 60-30 and 90-30. I've tried a number of different things to try to come to grips. Okay, so I've given up a pawn. Or have I? No, I haven't. I haven't given up a pawn because I took one that he didn't take back. But he is threatening my bishop. So I do get plenty of wood for the queen. My bishop on e5 is going to be hanging. I'd like to play f4 here, but that just hangs g4. I could play bishop e3 here. Bishop e3. What about knight b6 check? That's an interesting move, to say the least. Knight b6 check. King b8, bishop takes e5, rook d2, bishop takes c7, check, king a7. Of course, you can just take the knight on b6. Knight, I don't really have much. Let's see. I'm going to play bishop e3 here. Seems like the safest move, bishop e3, and if he plays f4, he's shutting off his control of d2, and then my bishop can go to d2 if it wants, and go to c5. Bishop d2 attacks his queen, and if he plays bishop f4, I take it. He takes with the queen, and he's menacing d2 again. Dang, let's see. Time to stretch the legs. What I'd like to do is just take his bishop and sack my queen and then come up with some kind of a decent attack. I don't know. Let's see. Candidate moves. Bishop takes e5. Bishop e3. Knight b6 check. I got 22 minutes. I'm not really pressed for time here. Let's see. I completely missed the idea of him taking the pawn and putting his rook on d2. No, not perfect. But the fortunate thing for White, basically I've played to stop his attack cold, and now he's managed to revive it. A little bit of my help. Let's see. How I want to do this. I just don't know. I just don't know how I want to do this. Okay. So if I take his bishop on e5, he gets rook d2 in. Now he's threatening to take my queen with check. So if I take on the 7th rank with my rook, I'm menacing his knight. He takes my queen with check. I take with the king. And my threat is to play f4, attacking his queen, driving it away from protection of the knight. But he plays queen d2 check, and if I go to g1, he has h3 with a mate threat on g2. And that probably does me in. Okay, so I can't do that. I'm just not getting enough in that line. Although, you know, I'd like to give up my queen. If I could find a good way to do it. Let's see. So bishop takes. He pins. Now, I've got to... See, the problem is I've got to cover a few things here. If I play f4, he gets queen takes g4 check, so I can play rook c2, forcing rook takes f2, and now king takes, and his attack is kind of petered out. He could take on g4, just go for broke here, with ideas of piling up on f3. I don't have time for rook takes c7, but I could play bishop takes c7, and then he plays rook f8. I get knight b6 check in, king b or king a7, and I've run out of steam with my attack. Okay, so let's see. Hard to say exactly what I want to do here. I'm thinking I could just have to bite the bullet and play bishop e3 and keep my queen, and then I have to regroup. So sometimes, you know, I basically made a mistake. You make an assumption that you see, you push e5, you say, well, he can't take the pawn because he loses his bishop. But then you look one move further and you say, yes, he can take the pawn because when I take his bishop, my queen is pinned. Okay, so it's a common mistake we make when we analyze. We don't look at every possibility. We sometimes stop our analysis and we say, well, he can't do that, and then you stop. You throw up a brick wall and say you can't go any further. So I'm thinking bishop e3. Now what's he going to do? He's got to get his queen to safety. Okay, so where's he going to put the queen? g6. But then I have time to start redeploying things. Then I can go into c5, and he can take on g4, and if I take on g4, he takes on g4 with check. My king goes to h1, and he's covered. Who's talking to me now? Somebody sending me an alert? Probably don't have time. Oh, it's a request to be friends. Okay, I accept all friends requests. Okay, so let's see. Anyway, back to the game. Let's see. Bishop e3, queen g6. I can also push g5 and just frustrate him. Maybe I'll do that. Break his attack. See, I've been under the impression that Black doesn't have much of an attack, and he got bold with his 21st move, and suddenly he has one. But I should be able to nip it in the bud. It's just my overall impression. So I'm pretty sure I have to play bishop e3, and I totally welcome him playing f4. He doesn't. Am I missing anything? f4. I just put the bishop back on c5, and his knight can go to f5. Big deal. Where's it going to go next? It isn't. Okay, so bishop e3 it is, and now his clock is ticking again, and he's got to find a move. So let's see. I think I've picked the best move. Bishop e3. Now, if he puts his queen on g6, I can shove by with g5, and he might try f4, attacking fg5 again. Yeah, that might mess me up. So queen g6, like I said, I need to do something over on the king side, or queen side. Knight c5, he takes on g4, and then I can push f4, attacking his bishop. We play bishop f4. Didn't expect that. Okay. So there's definitely a lot of possibilities here, and I can't see them all now. I'm just trying to sort them out. It's certainly something for the post-game analysis. Okay, so let's see. Bishop f4. Like I say, I think his attack starts to run out of steam here in a hurry. Let's see. He's trying to resume a threat on d2, and I've got time here to sort this out. Let's see. Well, he's threatening to take on e3. If I take, his queen takes, and he's threatening rook d2 again. Okay, and he's also threatening queen takes a5. Or queen takes a4 rather. So I could play knight c3, but then I'm bringing it back where it started, and he still gets rook d2 in, and I have to play knight e2, and that's just bleh. That's just defensive chess. Okay, so the other thing I can do is go back to the idea of rook c3. The purpose of rook c3 is to safeguard, batten down the hatches on e3. And he'll likely take my pawn on g4. And now what I do is see, I can take his bishop in this case. Now he takes on f4. Now he's threatening rook d2 again. He's threatening queen takes a5, or e4 rather. Now I'm the one getting in time trouble. Too funny, huh? Okay, shoot. I don't know. It's kind of hard to say here. Oh, just a second. I've got a cat here that I need to get out of here because he's in the middle of the game. I mean, on my lap. Okay, hang on, cat. You're going. The cat's wonderful and all, but when he gets up in my face, yeah. What can I say? I can't say anything. Okay, so let's see. I've got to sort this out. I've got 13 minutes to find a move, or I'm in time trouble too. Actually, I'm starting to get into time trouble. Dang. Okay, so the candidate moves. Bishop takes on f4, rook c3. Of course, can't move the bishop; it's pinned. I've used up my bishop a7 check motif already. So let's see. Not quite sure here. Gotta redeploy a few things. I'm thinking bishop takes f4 is the best move, but I'm not entirely convinced yet. Just don't know. So let's see. Darn. I can always punt and play a move like rook e1. Just don't know here. Let's see. Can I sacrifice that bishop on e3 in any way, shape, or form? Let's see. Rook takes c7, bishop takes e3. Then my queen can go to c2, go to e2. I'm not threatening knight b6. Not sure what I'm threatening there. Let's see. Might be in trouble here. Maybe I'm in trouble. Maybe I have to stop and realize that I've messed this up. And my opponent is wiggling out. I don't know. Let's see. There's a threat on e3. I can't deny that. There's a threat on e3. So I can move the bishop and give up the rook on c1. That's certainly an idea. Does that go anywhere? Sometimes you got to examine all possible moves. You know, one thing I didn't do when I pushed e5, I didn't examine the whole 9 yards of what my opponent could do, and I missed the rook d2 tactic. So let's see. The one piece I don't have in play is my rook on a1. It looks like all of black's pieces are in play now. Suddenly, here I was talking about they weren't in play, and yet there they are. So I'm not sure here. Darn, let's see. White to play and do the best he can. Gosh. I'd like to make some kind of a sacrifice if I could, but I'm just not seeing how. Bishop takes, knight take. I'm almost having to just come back and punt here and then try for the best. I think I have to take his bishop and drop my knight back to c3 and just admit that I've made a mistake, and he anticipated that move, or he had pre-moves set up. Now knight c3, okay, and go from there. See, the point is rook d2, I have knight e2, and I didn't like that so much, but maybe it's the best I had. Shoot. Went from what looked like a really good position and to a fight, a dog fight. So we're in a dog fight now. My question is how much time black has. Can he find the right moves? That's the question. Okay, so now let's see. What to do here? Let's see. I can attack his queen. Knight e2. Knight e2. If he takes my pawn, I can take with the queen. And then he throws h3 check in. Ouch. My king goes... Oh, that's horrible. Knight e2. He plays... I'm dropping a piece. Knight... No, his pawn's pinned. I can just take his pawn on g4. That might not be so bad. No, rook d2 comes in again. Oh, why? I've got that knight e2. Whoops. I've got that knight e2 idea. Pinning him back. But then he takes on g4 with check. And I don't know. Let's see. Maybe it's time to just run the king down to h1 here. Maybe I just need to stop that rook from coming down to d2, rook d1 here. Regroup this. And yeah, I'm running out of time. I'm gonna have to play defensive chess, I think. You know, just go into an ending down a couple of pawns and try and activate and get out of it. Rook d1 seems like it's a safe move because I'm running out of time myself now, trying to solve this position. Like I say, I don't care so much if he takes the pawn on f3. I'll just park my king in the corner, like I said. And the assumption will be that he doesn't have a mating attack going, and even though my attack is ground to a halt, I go into an ending down a couple of pawns and then figure maybe I can pick them off because they're weak. That's the whole idea anyway. We'll see what happens. So now he checks, and I put the king in the corner, and he lives to survive later. Okay. So now the point is that the f3 pawn is a weakness. It's also strength, but I'm going to use it as a weakness that I'll tie him down to holding. Let's see. I'm down what? Let's see. I have 4 pawns. He has 6. I'm down 2 pawns. Yeah. Now, what's he trying to do? Check on g3. If I take, he takes with the pawn. So anyway, let's see. His idea is to check on g3. So if I do that, if it's his move and he checks and I take, he takes back with the pawn, discovered check, and I die. So one way to take that away is to trade rooks. Yeah, if I trade rooks, it gets his rook off the h-file. Let's see how that works. Wait, there we go. Rook takes. Okay, check. That'll solve that problem for a moment. And then I put my rook on d1, and I'm willing to trade all the rooks off. Well, I thought I was clearly winning this game until I pushed e5. So good game by black so far. Hanging in there. You're hanging in there. Now we got to swing a rook over here and hope for the best. Where's the mouse? There it is. Playing it the wrong way. You can't see that obviously, but rook d1. I guess he could stick his rook back on h8, and I'm back to the same problem. The knight g3 check is threatened. He took. Okay, that doesn't bother me. And I just take back. Okay, so he's got a 3-on-2 pawn majority, and a better knight, and a better queen, and a couple pawns extra. What else can black ask for? I had his attack stop cold, and I allowed it to get better. But these things happen. You know, I didn't think black could survive this, but son of a gun. I mean, White was just getting everything he wanted, and it had his attack stop cold. I don't know. My e5 move was not right. But I have 10 minutes left to find moves. I should be able to do that. Let's see. That's his move. I'll let him think for a while. My attack clearly ended. Oh, he wants to get some advanced pawns. Well, let's see. I guess I have to take it, don't I? I don't, but yeah, I'm going to think about this one for a second. King e2. I mean, he's getting some advanced pawns, but he's giving up a piece to do it. I don't know. Let's see. I guess I have to take it, don't I? Can't think of anything else. Well, I imagine he's pre-moving here. Let's see. Just can't quite figure this out. What's he trying to do here? Get his passed pawns rolling. So that's what he's trying to do. I take it. He takes, and he's got two strong pawns. And he's on my queen. I don't know. I don't have to take it. Taking it might be too dangerous. Let's see. King g1. If I take it, he takes back with his pawn. But where's my queen go? c2. He pushes f2, and he's getting ready to queen. I'm not controlling it. No, I gotta move my king. I can't take that guy. Just have to hope for the best. Okay. There, I thought I could maybe take it, but it's just too dangerous. Now knight e4. Now where do I put my queen? Let's see. If I put it on d4, I'd probably run into trouble with queen g4 check. I gotta stay on the second rank. Yeah, gotta stay on the second rank here. Queen c2. Okay. So let's see. f2 check, liquidating my e6 pawn queens. So what's he do here? Like I say, I'm not so much worried about queen g4 check because I've covered g2, the mating square. I'm getting ready maybe for knight f2. Maybe. Okay, so queen g4 check. I gotta move the king. King f1 is better than h1, I think. Let's see what he does now. He has a check on h3. I can just go back. If he checks on h3, I can go to e1 or g1. He's going to win my pawn on e6. My poor passed pawn. You could take it now, I guess, too. But I had to keep my queen on c2 and cover g2. That was just forced. But there's no way that I had to blunder this. Just looking back at this position, I've been looking back at it a couple times while this video is going. I'm just wondering what went wrong here. You know, White has everything he wants. Black has really no attack here. I've covered all the squares. This bishop's out of play. It got in play. This knight's not ready to help. White's sending everything over to the queen side. You know, White has every reason to expect a victory here. Just sending stuff over, and you know, he tries this to get some activity, and oops. Okay, where did he go? Oh, queen h3. Well, I'm no good in the side of the board. I better go to the center. Okay, they took on e6. Now, is he threatening anything I should worry about? If a discovered check? Like, for instance, if I play king f1 here, that stops the discovered checks. Let's see, for instance, so if queen goes to d3, you could play knight c5 check, and I have to trade queens. But that might be bad if I can, not bad if I can win some of his pawns, but I don't know if I can win his pawns. I don't think I can. He's just going to win my pawns. I gotta break the discovery, and the only way to break the discovery is to put the king back. Okay, so that some of this is easy to play, but looking back, I've looked back a couple times. I didn't mention I was looking at this thing and thinking what I could do, and you know, it just seems like in this position, you know, White has everything he wants. Black has his attack has gone stone cold. I just missed this one trick. You I say can't take that pawn. So clearly I have to play a better move here. Bishop e3 right here might be good. But maybe not. I don't know. But White has all the attacking chances here. I've just let him back in the game. I just missed that one move, and it changed everything. So, it requires a lot of analysis, but my instinct says that White's got the long-term prospects here. I could even take the pawn on f5, and yeah, he can take it with his knight. He's on my bishop now, but I can safeguard that easily enough. This is a white game. It's not the black attack was stopped cold. The black attack was premature. He just got away with it. I blundered. Give him credit. He's finding the right moves now. Okay, here come the pawns. So let's see. Maybe the thing to do here is find a way to give perpetual check. Well, let's see. I don't even have any good squares to put the queen to do that. Let's see, d3. But then that allows queen h3 check again. Oh gosh. Let's see. So now it gets g5. See, queen d3. What's wrong with queen d3? g4, queen d8 check, king a7, queen d4 check. Is that perpetual? No. He has c5. Ouch. Okay, so there's probably not a perpetual here. His knight is just too strong. I need to get rid of it. Offer a trade. Knight f2. And if he takes it, how do I take back? With the queen. Attacking f4. He's going to force the queens off. Yeah, there's no move here. Knight f2 doesn't work. How about knight c3? If knight takes, I can take with the queen. Oh, and then he gets queen e2 check and mate in, so I'd have to take with the pawn. You just start shoving his pawns. And he's always got this threat of queen e2 check. And knight e3. Keep the knights on. Let's see. Oops, I'm hitting. Knight e3 keeps the queens on. Let's see, knight e3. Does that do any good? I don't know. Knight e3, where does it go? Covers g2. Yeah, just play it. I have to move or resign or lose on time. So it's definitely a bad knight that I've got to get activated. Could play knight g3 check here. Pawn takes. Knight. Queen takes knight. That might help me get rid of one of my weak pawns and give him one less pawn, but yeah, I'm still not liking it. I'm down to 6 minutes and 40 seconds. I don't know, the knight has no mobility on e3. It's just a square to put it. Okay, g4, I kind of thought he would do that. Now let's see. What's he threatening? g3, I suppose. Man, shove a pawn. I mean, I really have no moves here. Yeah. Game turned around just on a blunder. That's what chess can do. It happens. And, that's all right. I don't mind losing these games. I mean, it'll take a miracle to save this, because the whole objective is that everyone gets a chance to play and see how I think. Yeah, g3, I was expecting that. So, I guess I got to take it. I don't have to, but I should. Yeah, can he push h3? Probably. Probably just take with the pawn. Now his pawns are getting dangerous. Why isn't he replying? It's an easy move. Just take with the pawn and make me find a move. Okay, there he moved. Okay, I have two king moves. King g1 doesn't look inviting. King e1. And he doesn't have connected pawns. Where's the mouse? There he is. Okay, king e1. We'll give it a try. Now he takes with the pawn. Well, there's a free knight. I suppose I gotta take it. If I don't take it now, worst he'll do is get a second queen against me, or mate me. At least I got rid of it. Now if I'm lucky, I'll be able to give up my knight for both those pawns. If I'm lucky, yeah, right. When pigs fly. Okay, guess he forgot about his knight. I mean, those pawns are just dangerous as all get out, though. Did I get lucky? G2. Like I say, there he's threatening to make a queen right there. how to handle this. Let's see. Queen e8 check, king a7. Can I get on a square where I can perpetual him? What I need is the queen to get to c5 with check. And it can't do it. Queen e8 check, king a7, queen queen g8. Stops from queening. I think I have to do it. Always check. It might be mate. Maybe I'll find some way to get the queen active. You've got to give it a try. Okay, king a7. Now where am I going to put my queen? G8 or G6 to stop him from queening. G6 has a wee bit more mobility. Perhaps. Let's see. Can I sacrifice the knight? He takes with the pawn. Got 6.5 minutes. King f2, does that do any good? Queen h4 check. If king g1, queen h1 check, and he's promoting with queen. I got to cover g1. I got to cover that g1 square somehow. Okay, so queen g6. Give that a try. Close to blockading, but just not close enough. Queen h4 check drives my king out. I don't know. Queen h4 check looks good. That's king d2. He picks up b4 with check. Better yet, so the problem is there's no move. Queen d4 check. Ugh. Get my knight off the board. Yeah, queen h4 check's a killer. I guess my only other move might have been to play king f2, but I think queen h4 check was coming in anyways. Yeah. I'll just keep playing and see what happens. So queen h1 check. He didn't find the one move, but probably nothing wrong with this. So I guess I have to go to f2 here. I'm close to getting a knight sack for those two pawns. That would allow a queen trade, and I think he wins the king and pawn ending. What about queen h4 check now? Oh, then I can take on f3. Yeah, yay. Well, I'm covering queen f1 check with the knight. You know, what if he blundered his knight? I mean, he didn't have to give it up. Oh, queen checks, making a queen. Wow. I guess I have to take. I have no choice. It's the only legal move. Amazing. And again, I have to take it. White suddenly has winning chances. This can't. Oh, this is a shame. I mean, he may hold a draw here, but I've got the piece now. Wow. Shoot. Let's see. Okay, time to collect my breath. You know, after an escape like that. He's given up all of his advanced stuff. He's after queening, he's just gone into a possible lost game. Okay, so let's see. Of course, if he wins both my pawns, my knight's going to have a heck of a time stopping those. So I got to pick up the f pawn at some point. So king f2, king b5, a3, king a4, knight c2, king b3. My pawns are going. What if I play a4 here, just to hold his king back? Let's see. Yeah, I guess I've got time. You know, if it ends up a draw, it ends up a draw. I'm not sure White can win this, but my king is so far out of the equation, and if one pawn gets traded, he's close to trading the other one. So let's see. a4 seems to make sense, just to keep his king out of my position. Wow, let's see. So a4 makes sense. It starts trading off pawns. If he plays c5, yeah, I can take it, and probably my knight will stop his two pawns. I don't know if I can win this. I'm not even going to try to win it. I'm just getting an escape here. a4 it is. Okay. I don't think White has enough to win. The black king's too active. He's going to start eating those pawns, and this is the only move I can see to stop him from eating those pawns, because it cuts his king out of b5. But he can play c5, and the pawns are going to start dropping. Interesting what to do here. I don't think black has enough for a win. That's just my gut feeling, simply because I will collect the pawn on f3. I will collect, you know, even if he wins my two pawns, it's going to cost him at least one pawn, and I should be able to get my king back into the game, and my knight will find a way to annoy his king and pawns enough to where I can achieve a drawn king and pawn ending by sacrificing my knight. But you see, chess has its ups and downs. I mean, it looked like I was on the verge of winning, and then suddenly he was on the verge of winning, and he was so close. I mean, there had to have been a combination there. Okay, I think if I just take it and give up my pawns, I can get my king back in time to draw. That's just what instinct tells me, so I'm just going to play blitz here and just say it's going to be a draw and prove it. He can win my pawn on a4, but my king will get back into play, and my knight can pester his king Okay, so like I say, I'll just start running the king over. King f2. I'm pretty sure this is going to be a draw. I could have played a5 here, but it's just a fitting end to end this as quickly as possible. I know enough about chess to know that his pawns aren't going to create enough of a threat here. I'll just send my king back over, and my knight's ready to hop in at the right time. And as I say, I should be able to give up the knight and achieve a drawn game. Okay, so his king took. Now the question is how to bring the king over. Well, we're going to head for the e4 is the more aggressive, but e2 should work. Okay, my king should be close enough now to I can start redeploying the knight to check his king out of there. He's got his king well posted, but I should be fine here. If his pawns were up on b4 and a3, I would be in panic mode. That's well played by him. It's unfortunately he slipped, but I slipped too, so it happens. That's why I like correspondence chess. If you're careful, you won't slip. You'll get an advantage, and you'll find the right way, and that'll help you train for the real game like this. Okay, so let's see. A b5. Maybe I better not blitz. Knight c2, a5, knight b4 check, or no, I'm sorry, knight d4 check, king b4, knight takes b5, and it is a draw. So knight c2 keeps him from playing b4 or a5, because I can just go right into a drawn position, right? Knight c2. Okay, here, I'll just show it to you. The idea of knight c2 is if he plays b4, I can play knight takes b4, king takes b4, king c2, king a3, and king b1, and he can't win. So that eliminates b4. Okay, if he tries a5, I have knight d4 check. King comes up, I take this pawn, he takes it, and my king comes back. That leaves a king move for him. Well, what king moves does he have? King b2, I suppose. Well, I can just start checking with my knight. So this has a chance to go right into a drawn game. He can't shove either pawn. It'll be a draw. He must try a king move here. And king b2 is about the only move I can see. And if I'm not careful, he'll get some activity here, but I should be careful. If he plays king b2, I can just put the knight back on d4. He's going to have a hard time advancing his pawns, because if the pawn goes to b4, my king will go to c4, and I'm going to win it. I'm going to win one of those pawns. King c4, a5, and then knight c6, and the knight chops. Of course, maybe I can reach one of those positions where I force his king into the corner and my knight mates him. If he's not careful, I I don't know if you've ever seen that. Just imagine from this position we're in now that black has a pawn on H. Let me rephrase that. Black has a pawn on A3. His king is on A1, which would be in check, and my king's on C1. Basically, the idea is to that's the final position where he's forced to advance his pawn to A2 and gets checkmated. But here, this should do it. Knight D4. He stops his king from getting to B3, and if he shoves his B pawn, I play king C4 and A5 and knight C6, and I'm winning one of his pawns, or both of them, for the knight. So this should do it. The only thing that'll cost us the game is that if one of us disconnects, he's disconnected a few times here, he's always managed to come back, so I imagine he'll be okay here. Anyway, we're at the 2.5 hour mark. You can see here, a 45-minute game, 45-45. Here we're both taking our time. We've played 53 moves, and the game's only 2.5 hours long. A good tournament game lasts 4 hours. Okay, that's why 45-45 is a good internet time, but it's not good preparation for your real games when you go to play in person. Okay, I've known that all along, and I've mentioned it all along. But 45-45 is popular. Who am I to say? You know. Anyway, let's see. King, I'm not going to offer a draw because he has the pawns. Although, like I say, there could be some crazy position where he gets mated. And if he goes and hides in the corner, that could happen. Now, if he plays King A1 here, I might be able to pin him in and force one of those positions. I don't know. But white has enough to hold a draw here. I'm pretty certain of it, so it won't be a loss. But as they say, that's chess. Okay, King A3. So that gets my king a little closer. You know, I mean, it'd be crazy to win this position. Can I somehow force it now? I mean, I'm beginning to wonder. I don't think I can, but let's see. King C2 is the idea is to get to C1, and if he plays King A2, he's basically getting in a position where he can't run his pawns. The only way to win this is to get my king to C1 and his king to A1 and force his H or A pawn to run up all the board and mate him. But I don't see how that's going to happen. The only way I can make it happen is to get my king down to where it needs to happen and get it on C1. Okay, so he can't push his A pawn. The B pawn falls. He can move his king, he can move his B pawn, but I shouldn't worry about that. I'll just play knight B3 and followed by knight A5, and his B pawn is forever stymied. So that's where we have it. Okay, now he's not going to fall into the trap. Like I say, this just goes into a drawable ending now. How do I want to do this? Knight C3 check, or C6 check. And put the knight on A5. I'm just going to offer him a draw. If he wants to play, that's fine. No, I shouldn't offer him a draw yet. He's got the pawns I don't. I mean, he probably thinks it's a draw. He's getting closer to it, but and now I just start the knight back to b3 if need be. Now if a5, I can take his knight and, I mean not take his knight, take his pawn and achieve a drawn ending. And push that pawn instead. Okay, so, well, I'm just going to do that. If he'll know it's a draw. If he doesn't, it'll just get claimed as a draw real quick. If a5, I'm going to capture on a5 and achieve a drawn king and pawn ending. He's not going to fall for what I wanted him to fall for, where I get him checkmated. Okay, so he's going there. I'll just check him. And if he comes forward with his king, I put the knight back on b3 and he can't advance his pawn. Or if he goes to c4, I may put the knight on c6 and win his b4 pawn, or sacrifice it and leave him with a rook pawn. Well, here we go. We're going to start repeating the position now. Check. You know, there's I'm not going to get what I was hoping to get, where I get my get his king in the corner and I find a way to mate him with my knight. And guess what? I'm going to check you again. a5, knight a5 check, king b5, knight b3, and if you push a5, I'm taking your pawn and it's a draw. Okay, knight back to b3. I think this is the second time we've had this position. Maybe not. Okay, what's he doing now? Avoiding a check. Well, I'll just slide my king over here. King a2. Yeah, just going for the draw was the right thing to do. No use complicating things and letting him win both of my queenside pawns. Trade one, let him win the other, and get my king over and make it a draw. If my king's closer, then white has a win, but king isn't closer. Okay, here we go again. Knight d4 check. Actually, I can just, you know what? Heck with that. I'll just play king back to b2. What cracks me up is I see people playing blitz chess and they can reach these dead draws and they're playing them out trying to flag their opponent, or they get king and rook versus king and rook and they won't take a draw. Oh my god, I gotta win this game, you know. It's like, oh man. Is life that important that you have to win a game on the clock? You know, it's like, you know, both sides have 2 minutes and they just won't take draws, and They play quick enough, finally somebody gets the 50 move rule in. And sometimes the guy trying to win the game plunders his material away and loses. All kinds of crazy things can happen in Blitz. I don't mind that he's playing on. He's just trying to find a way to make progress. And if he plays A5, I sacrifice my knight on A5, and it's a textbook draw. Well, I'm just going to offer it this time because there might be a threefold repetition here. I guess not yet, but there will be. And if you want to play on, go on. Just game won't last that long. No, he doesn't want to draw. Okay. Well, phooey. This is probably the third move repetition, but eventually, one way or the other, I'll get a third move repetition if this keeps up. I don't have to offer a draw every move. I offered it there to try to get the third move repetition to stay forward. But, okay, come on, guy. It's a draw. I know it. You know it. I'm not going to blunder. We both know it's a draw. Don't lose on time. Okay, fine. You want to play on. The moment you push A5, I'm taking it. And I know how to draw that. I knew how to draw that when I was a kid. Okay. When's it going to be a draw? I think this is a third move. If it isn't, something's wrong with the server. You decline. Come on, guy. You're annoying. It's a draw. Okay? I'm going to offer a draw every move until this third move kicks in. I was trying not to do it, but... Okay, you're declining. Okay, there. See? Draw by repetition. Boom. Okay, so there you got it. I knew that would come in eventually. We both had winnable games, and that's all I'm going to say. Oh, if I could type. Yeah. Look at all these lousy... I'm typing wrong. Both HQD instead of had. That's because the Q is next to the A. They both had winnable and Q games with a Q instead of an A. Oh my goodness. Okay, we both had winnable games. Check the video I made in my group as soon as it's uploaded. Oh, look at these bad spellings. Oh, jeez. Group. GRTUP. You know, T is close to an O, but it's not close enough. And then upload. Oh my God, I can't type. Okay, there we go. That's close. Okay, I'm going to end this video. Thanks everyone for watching for 2 hours and 40 minutes, and I hope you learned something in the games. And thanks everyone who played. Congratulations to Ajet for a great game. Take care.